You've had a long ongoing relationship with Shark Week. Has that always been a good experience for you, or has that been a little bit tough sometimes? Or can I even ask about Shark Week?
No, you can ask what you like. I don't mince my words, as you probably know. Shark Week for me was, especially the early years where we did the first few air jaws that became a very successful franchise, obviously for Discovery Channel. They were incredible. In the early years there was a strong emphasis on yes, always creating entertaining content. I mean, TV's TV, right? But there
Mhm.
was an equal emphasis on having a strong conservation and educational component. So there were regularly scientists that co-hosted the show with myself who brought really innovative science to it. Yes, we created interesting gadgets and came up with crazy craft for me to explore the ocean and get interesting photos. But there was always a strong conservation and educational thread to them. Sadly, over the years, that became ever more difficult for me to try and push those two facets of the documentaries. And in recent times, sadly, I've for the time being, I've walked away from doing Shark Week shows. I did it for 25 years. It's a long time. I had a great run. I got to see and do things very few people on the planet have done, and I'm incredibly grateful. But I just think that the great white shark was an animal that was so unbelievably spectacular that you didn't have to, you know, cover it with candy and throw dollops of ice cream on it. You could just have left it as it was, and it was a wonderful beast that could entertain just by being itself. So, yeah, look, Shark Week has definitely got its spot in terms of educating people and bringing into the lounges an animal that few people get to see on this planet. I think even some of the sensational shows have got their place in that people like ourselves who spend time with wildlife and people who are already shark fans, they might turn their noses up at them a bit, but you can't constantly preach to the choir. And that guy or girl who's never had exposure to sharks and now is suddenly, seeing a celebrity with the sharks, they suddenly turn the TV on because there's a celebrity working with the sharks. But maybe the penny drops that, hey, that animal's pretty cool. Let me watch the next show. And then there's, some educational component, and slowly the transformation occurs. So
Mm.
I think you've always got to be careful of throwing under the bus Shark Week shows that don't align necessarily exactly with what we believe they should be, because you also need to attract people into the mix that are new to sharks. And sometimes the hook needs to be a celebrity, or the hook needs to be somebody maybe doing something a little bit stupid or silly. As much as I don't like that, condone it, or want to be that person, ultimately, people need to be exposed to an animal to learn to appreciate it and hopefully become ambassadors for it. So, where Shark Week goes, I don't know. I really want to focus, on my fine art, showcasing the beauty of the animals, showcasing what makes, trying to showcase what the essence of what makes each one special. But yes, Shark Week was wonderful. I mean, jeepers, I got to go primarily with Jeff Kerr to all sorts of incredible locations around the world. As I said, I got to walk on the ocean like Fred Flintstone in little cages. I got to experience breaches from a few feet away on sleds. I got to go in submarines, paddle boards, kayaks with great whites. I did pretty much everything you could possibly do, and it was an incredible ride. It was an amazing opportunity to show that these animals weren't about trying to kill me, despite the fact that I think Discovery Channel tried every trick they could to get me killed. But it was amazing. And Jeff came up with incredible contraptions. He came up with a whole assortment of different places to go and see these sharks. And yeah, hopefully people, got a little bit of everything out of those shows. And I really hope in the future that Shark Week focuses more on sharks and less on people, because as I said, the sharks are so, there are 500 plus species of them. Each one's got its own niche. I think there's enough in each of those sharks to entertain people. And I think the deeper we dig into a shark's life cycle, the more interesting it becomes. So yeah, more shark, less people would be a better Shark Week for me. I'm unbelievably lucky. I'm unbelievably privileged. And if it had to all end tomorrow, I wouldn't have any regrets, other than obviously the white sharks disappearing. But I wouldn't have any regrets for the life I've been so lucky to lead. And getting to know wildlife is the greatest gift and privilege you can ever have in your life. And I've been amazingly endowed with that gift.
Chris, you're always so generous with your time, and I really always appreciate it. I don't want to abuse it by keeping you longer, but I'd love to talk to you again in the future if you ever have time. I hope to come visit you again.
We look forward to it, Scott. South Africa, despite its few misgivings, is still one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And there's still an incredible amount of wildlife here. And hopefully, decision makers and generations to come will learn from the mistakes made, and we'll have a prosperous future at some stage. Every country goes through its ups and downs, and we're in a bit of a down at the moment. But the brave leaders of the next generation, I'm sure, can pull it right. So we keep our fingers crossed. Thanks for a lovely interview, lovely chatting to you, and I hope we see you on our fair shores again.